That night, when the doorframe still shook from his boot, I barely managed to swipe my trembling finger across the screen and type 3 letters SOS. The whiskey stench rolled off him like a toxic cloud, mixing with Colorado hail pounding against my apartment windows. My shoulder screamed where it had popped from its socket, but I couldn't feel it anymore, not with his hands closing around my throat. Behind him, my mother stood frozen in the doorway, her eyes as empty as they'd been for the past 4 years since she'd married him. My name is Avery Hale, and I thought I'd die in that rented apartment near Summit Base before the cavalry arrived. The door exploded inward at 11:43 p.m., wood splinters mixing with the hail that Dale tracked in on his hunting boots. He filled the doorway like a grizzly emerging from hibernation, 6'2" of contractor muscle gone to seed, reeking of Marlboro Reds and Jack Daniels. His Carhartt jacket dripped steadily onto my hardwood floor, each drop marking time before the violence. "Found you, little bird," he slurred, using the pet name that once made my skin crawl at family dinners. Now it made my hand inch toward the kitchen knife on the counter. I'd trained for this. 4 years in the Front Range Special Operations Group had taught me to read terrain, assess threats, engage targets. But training scenarios don't account for your mother standing behind your attacker, her face a mask of learned helplessness. "Dale, please." Elaine's voice barely registered above the storm. "Shut up." He didn't even turn. His bloodshot eyes locked on mine as he stepped inside, boots leaving muddy prints on the throw rug Harper had given me last Christmas. 4 years, 4 goddamn years you've been hiding behind your uniform. I shifted my weight to the balls of my feet, peripheral vision cataloging weapons: the glass coffee table, the metal floor lamp, the framed photo from graduation day. My left shoulder already throbbed from where I'd caught myself against the wall when he'd first charged. "I'm not hiding from anyone," I said, voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding my system. "Get out of my apartment." He laughed, that wet, rattling sound I remembered from all those nights he'd stumbled home to our Denver suburb. "Your apartment. Everything you got came from me, fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your ungrateful head." The first swing came fast for a drunk man. I ducked left, using his momentum against him, driving my knee up toward his femoral artery. But the whiskey hadn't dulled his construction site reflexes entirely. He twisted, caught my leg, used his weight to slam me into the bookshelf. Paperbacks scattered. My shoulder popped a white-hot supernova of pain. Through tears, I saw him pick up the coffee table, hurl it aside like kindling. The glass shattered, littering the floor with transparent teeth. Combat training kicked in. Ignore the pain. Control the space. I rolled right, came up in a crouch, grabbed the table lamp, swung hard for his temple. Connected. He staggered but didn't drop. Blood trickled from his scalp, mixing with melted hail. "You little bitch, just like your dead daddy, always thinking you're better than everyone. Never mention my father." That was the rule he'd broken. I launched myself at him, channeling 4 years of morning PT, obstacle courses, hand-to-hand drills. We crashed into the wall, picture frames shattering. His hands found my throat, thick fingers crushing my windpipe. Black spots danced in my vision. My right hand fumbled for my phone on the side table, muscle memory thumb on the scanner. Swipe up. Tap the group message labeled Knox plus FR Team. 3 letters SOS. The phone slipped from my fingers as Dale squeezed harder. Through the roar in my ears, I heard something beautiful: boots thundering up the stairwell, voices shouting commands, the building's security alarm shrieking to life. Dale heard it too. His grip loosened just enough for me to gasp. "You're done." Then the hallway lights blazed, strobing red and blue through my window, and the real storm arrived. Before Dale, before the fear, before I learned to sleep with one eye open, there was Maine. I grew up in Rockport, where the Atlantic carved poetry into granite cliffs. My father, Jonah Hale, worked at the Thomaston shipyard, but his real job was teaching me to read the ocean. Every Sunday at 5 a.m., we'd walk the harbor, coffee steam mixing with salt fog. "See how the water pulls back before the big waves," he'd say, pointing at the tide pools. "Never turn your back on the sea, Avery. She'll tell you what's coming if you know how to listen." I was 12 when the call came. Crane cable snapped at the shipyard. They said he didn't suffer. They said a lot of things that were supposed to help but didn't. The company sent a check in a fruit basket. Mom sent the fruit basket back. Elaine unraveled like a cheap sweater. First, she stopped cooking. We lived on cereal and microwave dinners. Then she stopped leaving the house except for wine runs. By month 3, she'd sold Dad's truck, his tools, even his winter coat. "We need the money," she'd say, not meeting my eyes. The foreclosure notice came in November. Mom's sister in Denver offered us her basement. I remember the drive west 3 days of Mom chain-smoking Virginia Slims while I watched Maine disappear in the side mirror. I kept one thing hidden in my backpack, a moon snail shell. Dad and I found the morning before he died. Smooth, perfect spiral, the color of morning fog. Denver suffocated me. The mountains were beautiful but wrong vertical walls instead of horizontal horizon. Our rental in the northern suburbs smelled like cat pee and disappointment. The radiator clanged all night like a ghost in chains. I learned to navigate Mom's grief like a minefield. Don't mention Dad, don't play his favorite songs, don't cook bacon. The smell made her sob. I got a job at 14, lying about my age to stock shelves at a corner market. The manager knew but didn't care. Cash under the table, no questions asked. School became my escape. Meadowbrook High had a decent library where I could hide until 6 p.m., pretending to study while really just avoiding home. Mrs. Patterson, the librarian, started leaving granola bars on my usual desk. We never talked about it. Winter in Colorado was different from Maine. Dry cold that cracked your lips instead of wet cold that seeped into your bones. The heating bill came with red letters. Final notice. I gave Mom my entire paycheck. She cried and promised things would get better. That's when she started talking about finding someone. "We need stability, Avery. A real home." I wanted to scream that we had a real home, that Dad had built it with his hands, that she'd sold it for nothing. Instead, I held that moon snail shell under my pillow and whispered the tide tables Dad taught me, like a prayer to the ocean we'd abandoned. The maintenance request for our broken roof brought Dale into our lives that February. Mom had called the landlord 17 times. Dale showed up instead, tool belt slung low, smile too wide. "Heard you ladies needed rescuing," he'd said, like we were damsels in some twisted fairy tale. I should have known then. Should have heard what Dad taught me the water pulling back before the wave. Should have recognized the signs of an approaching storm. But I was 16, exhausted, and Mom was smiling for the first time in 2 years. So I turned my back on the sea. Dale played the long game like a master. First came the roof fixed for free, whistling while he worked. Then the kitchen sink that hadn't drained right in months. The bathroom door that wouldn't close. Each repair came with a joke, a compliment for Mom. A $20 bill slipped into my hand for helping out. "Your mom deserves better than this dump," he'd say, surveying our water-stained ceiling. "Woman like her should be treated like a queen." Mom bloomed under his attention like a drought-stricken plant finally getting water. She started wearing makeup again, buying clothes that weren't from Goodwill. The wine bottles disappeared from the recycling bin. Dale took us to dinner at actual restaurants not fancy, but places with cloth napkins and servers who didn't know our order before we sat down. I wanted to hate him, but those first months made it hard. He fixed things. He made Mom laugh. He kept the lights on. When I mentioned needing new shoes for work, they appeared on my bed the next day. Name brand, right size. The proposal came 6 months later at a 4th of July barbecue. Dale had invited half the neighborhood to our backyard, strung lights between the trees, bought enough meat to feed an army. When he dropped to one knee beside the grill, Mom's yes came out as a sob. That night, after everyone left, He gave me a silver necklace. For my new daughter, he said, fastening it around my neck. His fingers lingered on my shoulders. From now on, you know your place in this family. The words felt wrong, but Mom was crying happy tears, and I told myself I was being paranoid. The rules started small. Dale preferred dinner at 6:30 sharp, Grace before meals, even though none of us had been to church in years. Phones face down during family time, reasonable enough. Then came the financial controls. Joint bank account for transparency. Mom's paychecks from her new job at the library went straight in. So did mine from the bakery Maple Finch, a little shop downtown where I decorated cakes on weekends. For the family, Dale said. We pool resources. He gave us allowances from our own money. The bedroom door rule came next. Privacy breeds secrets, he announced one Sunday. Secrets destroy families. My door had to stay open unless I was changing. Mom nodded along like this was wisdom from Solomon himself. I started keeping my tips hidden in the moon snail shell. Senior year arrived with college applications I filled out in secret at the library. Dale had different plans. He'd spread brochures across the dining table, all for certificate programs, trade schools, 2-year degrees, and administrative support. College is a scam, he declared. 4 years of debt for what you're smart. Avery, too smart to fall for that liberal brainwashing. Mom said nothing. She'd learned his moods by then, could predict the weather by the set of his shoulders, the grip on his beer bottle. My 18th birthday fell on a Friday. I came home from school to find a cake from the grocery store, 3 balloons, and Dale sitting with a manila folder. Your future, he said, sliding it across the table. Administrative assistant program at Foothill Community College. Already filled out the application. You start in the fall. I applied to other schools, I said quietly. The room temperature dropped 10 degrees. Behind my back. His voice stayed level, which was worse than yelling. In my house, Dale, she's young, Mom started. The backhand caught me across the left cheek sharp, precise, practiced. The force spun me into the wall. I tasted copper, felt wetness that wasn't tears. You ungrateful little. He stood, chair scraping. Everything I've done for you, for this family. Mom pressed herself against the refrigerator, hands over her mouth, eyes vacant. She'd gone somewhere else, somewhere safe inside her head. I recognized the look I'd seen it in the mirror lately. Dale grabbed my chin, forced me to look at him. You're not going anywhere. You'll take the program. You'll work. You'll contribute. That's what family does. The moon snail shell sat in my pocket. I ran my thumb over its smooth spiral and made a decision. Yes, sir, I whispered. He smiled, patted my burning cheek. Good girl. You know your place. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my desk with the door wide open, filling out one more application. Not for college, for the United States Army. The Summit recruiting office sat between a nail salon and a payday loan shop, American flag snapping in the March wind. I pushed through the door at 7:30 a.m., before Dale's Saturday surveillance routine began. Captain Valeria Stone looked up from her desk, took in my bruised cheek beneath the concealer, and didn't ask questions. She was built like a boxer compact, coiled energy with eyes that had seen enough to recognize a refugee when one walked in. I want to join, I said. Special operations track is brutal, she said after reviewing my test scores. 80% washout. The altitude here is nothing compared to what you'll face. Sure you don't want something easier. Intelligence, medical, admin. I want to be where he can't reach me. Stone nodded slowly. Then you want to be where you can reach back. Sit down. Let's talk timeline. The problem was Mom's signature I needed parental consent, still being 17 for another 3 weeks. Stone helped me strategize. Wait until Dale left for a job site. Catch Mom alone. Make it quick. I found my moment the next Tuesday. Mom sat at the kitchen table, staring at her coffee like it held answers. I need you to sign something, I said, placing the papers in front of her. Her hands shook as she read. The Army Avery. No. Dale will... Dale won't know until I'm gone. By then, it's federal. He can't touch me. He'll blame me. He already does. I knelt beside her chair, took her cold hands. Mom, I'm drowning here, and if I stay, I'll die. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but eventually. She signed with tears streaming down her face. Take care of yourself, baby, since I can't. Basic training started 2 weeks after graduation. Dale thought I was at orientation for Foothill Community College. Instead, I stood in formation at Fort Carson at 4:30 a.m., head shaved, wearing boots that gave me blisters the size of quarters. The drill sergeants screamed. I smiled. Their yelling had purpose, structure, rules. Nothing like Dale's random explosions. When Sergeant Morrison got in my face about my pathetic push-up form, I wanted to hug him. The mountains became my church. We'd ruck march 12 miles before dawn, altitude crushing our lungs, legs screaming. I named each peak after something I was leaving behind Dale's fists. Mom's silence, that kitchen table, the open bedroom door. Harper Knox bunked above me, a ranch kid from Wyoming who could outshoot most of the instructors. She caught me crying into my pillow the 3rd week, after a letter from Mom described Dale's rage when he'd discovered my empty room. Hey, Harper whispered, dropping down beside me. You good. I left my mom with a monster. You left to become something that could fight monsters. She squeezed my shoulder. Can't save anyone if you're drowning. Week 6. I sprained my ankle on the obstacle course, landed wrong, coming off the wall. The medic wanted me to sit out the next day's crucial evaluation ruck march. Failing meant recycling. Starting over. More time before I'd be truly free. Harper showed up at Reveille with 2 rucksacks. I'll carry yours. You focus on walking. That's against regulations. So is leaving our own behind. She strapped my pack on top of hers. 60 pounds total. We moved together or not at all. We finished in the middle of the pack. The instructors knew, but said nothing. Later, Stone would tell me that's when she knew I'd found my real family. Graduation day came in August heat. Mom drove down alone, wearing sunglasses and a turtleneck despite the 90-degree weather. We both pretended not to notice. He wanted to come, she whispered during the ceremony. I told him it was restricted to immediate family only. Good lie. I'm getting better at them. She touched the bruise on her collarbone, visible when her shirt shifted. He's getting worse. Avery. Without you there to be his punching bag. She flinched. That's not what I meant. Stone appeared beside us. Full dress uniform, immaculate. Mrs. Rourke, your daughter's in the top 10% of her class. She's been selected for advanced training with our special operations group. Mom's smile looked like breaking glass. I'm proud of you, baby. I was assigned to Summit Base Housing, a standard apartment 4 miles from base. My own space, my own locks, my own life. That first night, I sat on the floor of my empty apartment, holding Dad's moon snail shell, and breathed freely for the first time in 3 years. I was no longer prey. I was becoming the hunter. The visit home for Thanksgiving should have been my victory lap. 4 years in, sergeant stripes fresh on my uniform. I thought I could handle 48 hours. Dale had redecorated. Every photo of Dad gone. The wall that once held our main vacation pictures now displayed Dale's hunting trophies: elk, deer, a black bear frozen in a permanent snarl. He'd even replaced Mom's reading chair with a leather recliner that reeked of cigars. Look at you, he said when I walked in, eyes traveling over my uniform. Playing soldier girl. It's not playing. I set my duffel by the door, keeping my exit clear. Mom fluttered around the kitchen like a broken bird, dropping things, apologizing for nothing. She'd lost weight. Her hands shook constantly now, not just mornings. Dinner was a minefield. Dale asked about my little army job while sharpening his hunting knife at the table, the blade catching light with each stroke. I talked about weather patterns, physical training, anything neutral. Mom pushed food around her plate. Still living alone? Dale asked, testing the blade on his thumb. Pretty girl, no boyfriend. People might talk. People can say whatever they want. He laughed that sound like gravel in a disposal. Tough now, aren't you all that training? Think you're untouchable. I think I'm tired. I stood. Early flight tomorrow. I was packing upstairs when he appeared in my doorway. Mom was in the shower running water, her white noise escape. Dale stepped inside, closed the door. You left without saying goodbye. I said goodbye to Mom. You embarrassed me, made me look like I couldn't control my own house. It was never yours to control. He moved faster than I expected, pinning me against the dresser. His breath was bourbon and rage. I own everything in this house. Your mother knows it. And wherever you run, whatever costume you wear, you're still that scared little girl whose daddy couldn't even keep a cable from snapping. I could have broken his grip. Harper and I practiced escape drills weekly. Could have driven my knee up, snapped his nose with my forehead. But Mom was in the next room, and assault charges would end my career. So I stayed still, met his eyes. Are you done? He leaned closer, whispered, I can find you anywhere. On base, off base, that apartment near Summit Nice neighborhood. Quiet, the kind where no one asks questions. Ice filled my veins. He'd been watching. He released me, stepped back, smiled. Family's forever, Avery. Remember that. The harassment started 2 weeks later. Blocked numbers calling at 3 a.m., playing Dale's favorite country songs. Cigarette butts, Marlboro Reds, his brand left on my car windshield. Photos slipped under my apartment door me grocery shopping, jogging, entering the base gate. Always from a distance, always untraceable. The email came on Christmas Eve, a photo of Dad's grave in Maine, a red X spray-painted across the headstone. The message read, Accidents happen. Ask your daddy. I brought everything to Captain Stone. She reviewed the evidence, made calls, but ultimately shook her head. Without direct threats or physical contact, civilian police won't act. Military can't intervene in family matters off base. She studied me carefully. However, I'm assigning you to a different training rotation. Varied schedule, harder to track. And hail. Yes, Captain. Stay alert. Men like him escalate. When he does, we'll be ready. January brought more photos my apartment building, my regular coffee shop, Harper's truck with me in the passenger seat. Each envelope had a Denver postmark, but no return address. The police detective I spoke with looked bored. Ex-stepfather being creepy isn't illegal, he said. Call us if he actually does something. I wanted to scream that waiting for something meant waiting to become a statistic. Instead, I installed new locks, security cameras, started varying my routes. Harper began staying over on weekends, her presence a deterrent. Mom called in February, whispering, He knows you went to the police. He's been drinking more, planning something. I heard him on the phone about taking time off work, something about settling debts. Come stay with me, I begged. I can't. You know I can't. Just be careful. He's been practicing at the range every weekend. Says his hunting season's coming early this year. The line went dead. When I called back, the number was disconnected. 2 weeks later, on a hailing Thursday night, Dale came to collect. The hail started at 10:15 p.m., ice pellets hammering my windows like Dale's fists in my nightmares. I was reviewing training schedules when the first knock came 3 soft taps, almost polite. Through the peephole, nothing. The hallway stood empty, fluorescent lights humming their usual sick green tune. I knew better than to open it. Instead, I grabbed my phone, pulled up Harper's number, didn't hit call yet. The second knock was louder. Still, no one visible. My training kicked in. Someone was standing against the wall, using the peephole's blind spot. I backed away, adrenaline flooding my system like cold water. Then the door exploded. Dale's boot connected just above the deadbolt. Wood splintered, chain snapped, and 240 pounds of rage barreled through. His hunting jacket dripped hail melt onto my floor, leaving puddles that reflected the overhead light like broken mirrors. Hello, Little bird. I dodged left, muscle memory taking over. The coffee table was between us, glass and metal, a weapon or obstacle depending on position. My phone lay on the kitchen counter, 15 feet that might as well have been 15 miles. How's the army treating you? He circled right, predator steady. Teaching you to be tough to forget where you came from. Dale, you're drunk. Leave now and I won't call the MPs. He laughed, grabbed the table's edge, flipped it like a playing card. Glass shattered against the wall, rainbow fragments catching light as they fell. You won't call anyone. Mom appeared in the doorway behind him, a ghost in a coat too big for her shrinking frame. Her left eye was swollen shut, purple-black like a storm cloud. Mom. I tried to stop him, she whispered. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. Dale moved while I was distracted. His shoulder caught me in the chest, drove me backward into the bookshelf. Paperbacks exploded around us like startled birds. My left arm hit the shelf edge, wrong that sick pop of joint-leaving socket, white-hot agony racing up my neck. I rolled with the impact, came up swinging with my right. Caught his jaw, felt the shock travel up my arm. He staggered but didn't drop. Construction work had made him dense as concrete. Still got fight in you. He wiped blood from his mouth. Your daddy had fight too, right until that cable came down. The rage that flooded me was pure, clean, surgical. I launched myself at him, using techniques Harper and I had drilled 1,000 times, knee to the thigh, targeting the femoral pressure point, elbow to the solar plexus. He absorbed it all, then wrapped me in a bear hug that compressed my ribs like a vice. We crashed into the wall. My graduation photo fell, glass starring around our faces, frozen in a moment of pride I'd never feel again. Dale's hands found my throat, thick fingers crushing my windpipe with practiced precision. Should have done this years ago, he hissed, before you got ideas. Before you embarrassed me. Black spots danced in my vision. My left arm hung useless, right hand clawing at his grip. Mom stood frozen in the doorway, watching her daughter die the same way she'd watched her spirit die silent. Still. Somewhere else entirely. The coffee table's metal frame lay within reach. I grabbed it, swung awkward and desperate, connected with his knee. He cursed, grip loosening just enough for me to gasp. My phone. Kitchen counter. I lunged for it, Dale's hand catching my ankle. I went down hard, chin hitting tile, taste of copper filling my mouth. But my fingers found the phone. Muscle memory doing what conscious thought couldn't. Thumb on scanner. Screen alive. Messages app already open from earlier. Knox plus FR team. 3 letters SOS. The phone slipped from my bloody fingers as Dale dragged me backward. He flipped me over, hands returning to my throat, pressure building in my skull, vision tunneling to a pinpoint. Dale, stop. Mom's voice, so far away. You're killing her. She needs to learn, he said calmly, like explaining a math problem. Needs to understand her place. The edges went dark. My lungs screamed for air that wouldn't come. Dad's moon snail shell pressed against my hip from my pocket, a final comfort as the world faded to black. Then chaos. Beautiful, violent chaos. The security alarm shrieked to life. Footsteps thundered in the stairwell, not 1 or 2, but a stampede. Red and blue lights exploded through my window, painting Dale's shocked face in alternating colors like a broken carnival ride. His hands loosened. I gulped air, each breath like swallowing glass. What did you... The hallway filled with shadows. Boots. Voices. Radio static. The cavalry had arrived. Avery. Avery. Harper's voice cut through the darkness, pulling me back from the edge. Her face materialized above me, eyes wild with fury I'd only seen during live fire exercises. I've got you. Breathe. Just breathe. Behind her, the doorway filled with bodies, a tactical formation I recognized even through my blurred vision. 8 military police officers from Summit Base, their black armbands catching the strobe of emergency lights. 6 more uniforms pushed in behind them. Garden Ridge Police Department, radios crackling with coordinated chatter. Dale scrambled backward, his predator confidence evaporating. "What the hell?" "Don't move." The lead MP, Sergeant Rodriguez, had his hand on his sidearm. "Hands where we can see them." Dale's eyes darted between the officers like a cornered animal. 14 trained personnel had materialized in my apartment in under 4 minutes. The SOS to Harper had triggered a chain reaction she'd called base security while sprinting to her truck. They'd patched through to local PD, and everyone had converged like antibodies to an infection. "This is a family matter," Dale tried, raising his hands slowly. "Just a misunderstanding." "Shut up." Harper stepped over me, positioning herself between Dale and my crumpled form. "Sergeant Hale, can you hear me?" I managed a nod, tasting blood. My throat felt like crushed gravel. But I was alive. 2 MPs moved in tandem, one securing Dale's right arm, the other controlling his left. He tried to wrench away, construction worker strength against military precision. It wasn't even close. They bent his wrists back, pressure points singing. "Dale Rourke, you're under arrest for assault, breaking and entering, attempted murder." The Garden Ridge officer's voice droned on with Miranda rights while Dale thrashed. "She's mine!" he roared, spit flying. "That ungrateful bitch belongs to me. I raised her. I own her. She's ours." Captain Stone's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. She stood in the doorway in civilian clothes jeans and a Summit Base hoodie, looking more dangerous than I'd ever seen her in uniform. "You attacked one of my soldiers. That makes this our business." The 8th set of handcuffs clicked. The sound was musical, final, like a door slamming on 4 years of terror. Dale went to his knees, not from force, but from the weight of realization. He'd hunted military personnel on federal property adjacent. He'd triggered protocols he didn't know existed. "Mom," I croaked, searching for her. She stood pressed against the far wall, hands over her mouth, watching her husband, her captor, reduced to nothing. One of the female officers approached her gently, guided her to the couch. "We need the medics," Harper called. 2 EMTs materialized with a gurney. Gentle hands stabilized my shoulder, checked my throat, shone lights in my eyes. Possible strangulation injuries, dislocated shoulder, multiple contusions. One muttered into his radio, conscious and responsive. As they lifted me, I caught Dale's eye. He looked smaller somehow, deflated, just a drunk contractor in handcuffs surrounded by professionals who ate scarier things for breakfast. "You always bragged about being a hunter," I whispered, voice raw but clear. "Tonight, you got hunted by 14 professionals." 15, Stone corrected, nodding toward the sergeant taking photos of the crime scene. "Detective Morrison was off duty, heard the call, decided to join the party." They dragged Dale out as I watched from the gurney. His boots, those heavy hunting boots that had starred in my nightmares, squeaked against my floor, leaving mud trails that looked like the death throes of something prehistoric. The last thing I saw before the EMTs wheeled me toward the ambulance was Harper picking up my father's moon snail shell from where it had fallen. She placed it carefully in my hand, closed my fingers around it. "We don't leave our own behind," she said. "Ever." The ambulance doors closed on the sound of sirens, radios, and Dale's fading screams about ownership, about rights, about family. But family isn't about blood or papers or who fed you when you had no choice. Family is who shows up with 14 others when you type 3 letters in the dark. I woke to fluorescent lights and the antiseptic smell of the base hospital. My shoulder was immobilized, neck wrapped in a soft brace. Every swallow felt like drinking broken glass. But I was breathing. That was enough. Harper dozed in the chair beside me, still in her PT clothes. Mud from her sprint through the storm dried on her sneakers. The clock read 3:17 a.m. The world outside was quiet now, the hail replaced by soft snow. "You're awake." Captain Stone stood in the doorway, still in her civilian clothes. Her eyes held that particular satisfaction reserved for operations completed successfully. Dale. County Jail. Federal charges pending since the apartment complex is government property. The district attorney is particularly interested in the attempted murder of active military personnel. She moved closer, voice dropping. Your mother's safe. She's with victim services, getting her eye treated. She's agreed to testify. I tried to speak, but Stone held up a hand. There's more. We searched his truck, found a loaded hunting rifle, zip ties, and a tarp. This wasn't just about control anymore. Hale. He came to end it. The moon snail shell sat on the bedside table. Harper must have made sure it came with me. I touched it gently, thinking of my father, of tides, of knowing when to run and when to stand your ground. 14 officers, I whispered. Stone's smile was sharp as winter. 15, counting Detective Morrison. Would have been more, but we ran out of room in your hallway. Half the base wanted to respond when Harper sent that alert. You're one of us. Hale. Attack 1. You attack all. A knock interrupted us. 2 more MPs stood at the door with paperwork. Behind them, someone had set up a laptop on a rolling cart. Video testimony, Stone explained. While everything's fresh, are you up for it? I nodded. For 4 years, I'd been silenced by fear, by shame, by the twisted logic of abuse that makes you feel responsible for your abuser's actions. Now, with my throat bruised, but my voice finally free, I told them everything, every controlling rule, every threat, every violation. The female MP taking notes had tears in her eyes by the end. He said he owned me. I finished. Said I'd always belong to him no matter where I went. He was wrong. Stone said simply, You belong to yourself, and when you choose to stand with us, we stand with you. Harper stirred, stretched, caught my eye. Hey, warrior, how's the throat? Feels like I swallowed Dale's truck. Yeah, well, his truck's being impounded, so that's poetic justice. We sat in comfortable silence while the snow fell outside. Somewhere across town, Dale was learning what real confinement felt like, not the psychological prison he'd built for others, but actual bars, actual consequences. My phone buzzed with messages. The entire FRSOG group chat had exploded with support. Marines I'd only met once offering to stand guard at my apartment. Air Force personnel from the neighboring base volunteering to help me move. Even the gruff master sergeant who never smiled had written, Nobody touches our people. Good job staying alive. Hale. This is your real family, Harper said, reading over my shoulder. The one you earned, not the one forced on you. Mom visited that afternoon, her eye bandaged but her spine straighter than I'd seen in years. I'm leaving him, she said quietly. Filing papers tomorrow. The advocate is helping me find a place. Come stay with me, I offered again. She shook her head. I need to learn to stand alone before I can stand with anyone else. You taught me that. She touched my hand carefully. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. We were both drowning. Mom, can't save anyone when you're underwater. Dale's trial would come later. He'd get 15 years, minimum. The rifle in his truck, the premeditation. The federal charges, it all added up to a number that meant I'd be 37 when he got out. By then, I'd be someone else entirely. Someone he'd never recognize, never own, never touch again. But that night, that perfect night when 14 officers answered a 3-letter call, Dale learned what I'd discovered in the mountains during training. Real strength isn't about control or ownership or fear. It's about knowing you're never alone. Stone was right. Attack one of us. You attack all of us, and we don't leave our own behind. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Please share in the comments below so we can connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Your experiences and perspectives matter, and this community is stronger when we support each other.